Hi, hello. So, how many times have you seen or sat down to speak about slavery, land, and reparations? But then someone in the midst of that conversation quickly shut you down by saying, let's forget about the past and focus on the future. Here's a few examples of why you should never be duped to forget about slavery, land, and reparations. Take a look.
Author Paul Kimball on page 121 says, and I quote, from 1619 until slavery ended officially in 1865, 10 to 15 million Africans were brought here to America, and another 30 to 35 million died in transport. A journey called the Middle Passage. In all, 40, conservatively speaking, 40 to 50 million Africans were abducted or killed by our white American and European foreparents, end of quote. Now, we just quoted a white man, not an angry black revolutionary. We just quoted from the book of a white man. Caucasian, Caucasoid, white, 40 to 50 million.
We hear so much about the slavery. For 200 years ago, our grandfathers were slaves. Well, for God's sakes, did we have anything to do with that? I had no part in it. I had no slaves. My folks didn't. My grandparents didn't. Are they blaming us for what happened 3 years ago? Let's forget the past. Think of the future. Build up the future.
You people like to say, let's forget, let's not blame anyone. Please, stop that nonsense. When the Holocaust happened against the Jews, it was 1940s, 45. Not a single African country other than Ethiopia and those who had not been colonized was free. The first African country got independent 1957. There is not a single Jewish person who will allow you to forget the Holocaust. And in fact, there are crimes, not just in Israel, across the world against denial of the Holocaust. US foreign policy, Israeli foreign policy is very key. It's a central issue.
If you ever go to Israel on a regular commercial tour of Israel, the first place that they take you to is the Holocaust Museum. And it is a sick feeling that you get in your innards when you walk through that museum and see the photographs of what one group of men did to another group of men for no other reason than they were who they were, as though they had anything to do about who they were. Where be the Holocaust Museum over 50 million black Africans?
She said, let us start right now. Let's forget the past. Notice this. When Jewish people remember the Holocaust and want the world to remember the Holocaust. Wait. Why do you want the world to remember? Because if the world does not remember, it is likely to repeat itself. And Jewish persons who suffered from the Holocaust want the world to remember this because the world turned its back while Jews were put in ovens. I, as a black person, want my people to remember what we have suffered and what we continue to suffer so that we will say like the Jews, never again. Never again.
Oh yeah, that's the attitude. Forget them. People want to get upset. I start talking about this and people get upset. You don't get upset with the Jews for having the Holocaust Museum. And I agree with him. I think they ought to have it. Thank God they have it. And hopefully enough people with enough brains will go there and see that mess and never be tempted to do that or let that happen again to any group of people. But what about the black Africans?
Africans, for some reason, must forget something that happened 50 years ago, if you are Zimbabwe 80 years ago. Listen, we must always remind our friends from Europe and elsewhere that slavery was a crime against humanity, as is colonialism and neo-colonialism. That killing Sankara in 1984 because you are opposed to communism and plunging his country into chaos that you are now trying to solve as a problem of poor governance is a shared responsibility. So we will take responsibility for our nakedness. But for goodness sake, a naked emperor cannot lecture us about how to be clothed.
And why keep hemming and hawing over the same thing over and over and over again? And they say, you must give me land because my grandfather was a slave. Well, then I would say, for God's sakes, find the man who had your grandfather as a slave and then demand the land from him. Don't bother me because I had no part of it.
You are one of the beneficiaries of that slave trade. So this is not a burden. You should be concerned and you should pay because you today are still benefiting from the greatest indignity to a human being, and that is the slave trade. And not only did you benefit during the slave trade and your country developed, but look at what it caused the developing world. During slavery, resources was used to build your country, build up your capacity. You were able to then become competitive. You were able to invest in mechanization, and developing countries like ours were left behind. So you should be very concerned because you are a prime beneficiary of the exploits of slavery.
So, what do you guys think? Share thoughts in the comment section below. Let's have a proper discussion about this without having me impose my opinions and ideas on this matter. Also, give this video a thumbs up if you liked it and share so that the YouTube algorithm can know that this video is so much interesting and put it out there to more avid viewers just like you. Make sure to subscribe to this channel if you are new. Until next time, peace out.